Welcome to the Draw Shop's Get Genius podcast, where we talk to today's business influencers to pick their brain and pull out their genius. It's time to get genius.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to another Get Genius episode. Today is a really important show, and a lot of times we're talking about business and how to scale, how to grow, how to manage your teams, all that kind of stuff. And every now and then I like to bring it back to you and your health and how you can be the best version of you and really be in that optimal state, which is so important. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I know have realized that importance. Unfortunately, it was because they got burnt out and then finally had to take an extra look at to how they're caring for themselves. And I think we have a tendency to underestimate how taking care of yourself can actually make a world of a difference within your business and in your life. And it sounds obvious, yet at the same time, we underestimate it. We go, oh, no, but I'm fine. No, but I'm fine. I'm just going to do what I keep doing. I'm going to keep getting through. I think I'm all good. I'm all good. Trust me, I'm just going to be smart. I have a smart brain, and it really has nothing to do with whether I eat this candy bar or drink that soda or whatever. It's all good. I'm just smart as it is. But really, even if you are, you can be so much more brilliant and actually, make your mind and your body just so incredibly clear and operating at a level that's so super high that you would actually say, why haven't I been doing this all along? And so that's why I have my guest, Dr. Stephen, and his wife, Janet Lewis, on the show today. They have a long history of helping people achieve their optimal health, and they do this by utilizing extensive, and now this is really important, but low-cost lab work, because some of you may know that, yes, you can find out what's going on inside your body, and it can be very expensive, which I will still say, yes, there's a cost associated with it, but there's also a cost associated with not knowing what's going on. So the cool thing is that they can do this at a low cost, and you can do it anywhere in the country. So they are in Texas, and they have such adorable accents. I love it. They're super cute and just a super happy, fun couple. But you can work with them, actually, and you can be anywhere in the world, or whoever it is that you choose to work with. Really, the point of this show is to take a look at where you are at physically inside your body, because that definitely comes out in how you operate day to day, mentally, and in all the conversations that you have, the emails that you send, the way that you run your business, or just operate in whatever it is that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So it's just super important, and I'm stressing that a ton. I know that, but I really do believe it. But the cool thing is they have mentioned things that I try to stay myself very current on what's going on with health and nutrition. And they've even brought up some other supplements and things that I didn't know about, which is really cool. So I'm definitely going to head over to their website, which we will find out all of that good stuff when you listen to the interview. But we really are just going to talk about, inflammation and what's going on and what kind of things they cause. Sometimes you think you know what's wrong, but there's nothing, but it's not even what you thought it was. And then there's that whole, I go to a doctor and I've gotten tests and they say I'm totally fine, but I still feel crappy. So what's going on? We're going to address all of that stuff. We're going to talk about some nutrition, supplements, all kinds of really good things. And the best part is I love stories, and Dr. Stephen I'm calling him Dr. Stephen. He's Dr. Lewis, but Dr. Stephen has so many great stories. So I'm excited for you to listen to this. If anything, I hope that it absolutely inspires you to take another look at where you are at in your health and your well-being. Enjoy. Hello, Stephen and Janet, and welcome to the show. I should say Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis. Welcome both to the show. I'm so excited to have you on here and to talk about something very important, especially with a lot of the entrepreneurs that we have listening, because sometimes this is something that we put aside and don't take enough care of, and that is ourselves.
Amen. I'm with you on that one.
Thank you so much. So I know that you guys have a long history of helping people achieve their optimal health, but I'm curious about what your journey was and if perhaps something happened with your health that inspired you to be on this mission.
Well, I sort of got blindsided one time on a live radio show, and I don't know, I guess the DJ caught me at a pretty sensitive moment, but he asked why I did that, and I said, well, because I know what it's like to have a daddy that died real young, and what a terrible effect that had on the family. And that motivated me to, learn to get more into natural medicine. And I love our medical profession. They do a really, really good job. But America's the sickest nation on the face of the earth, according to the World Health Organization and the Commonwealth Fund. And yeah, I like to boil things down. It's either too many toxins or not enough nutrients. And in reality, it's both. But then you have to get into the spiritual side of, well, why don't we love ourselves enough to take care of ourselves? And, Janet and I have been blessed to be able to go to China, and we've seen just a little bit of Europe, and America is sick. So, it's the detrimental effect of seeing a parent die early and not really be able to live, where on the other hand, after that, we started having my mother take a lot of supplements, and she was almost 96 before she passed away. So you can live a healthier, happier life, but you have to invest in it.
Right, exactly. So what are some of the common things that you're seeing that people aren't really recognizing as sickness? They're just kind of tolerating.
Fatigue, fibromyalgia, or hypothyroidism. Most people have hypothyroidism just because of the toxins in our environment. Hormonal problems because the pollutants in our society have estrogen mimicking effects, and that's why men have low testosterone. And obesity. Janet and I are about to do a podcast. Our next podcast is going to be about that and some of my Stephenisms. I kind of have I've been told, a blunt but smart aleck way of saying things where people always remember it. So that's our next podcast.
Nice. So here's the thing that I see a lot is people will go in for their regular checkups, or they're going in just because there is something that's bothering them, but they don't necessarily, and this isn't I'm definitely not trying to put down any doctors, but I do see that some people are getting frustrated because they're being told that everything is fine, but they're still feeling like crap. They're like, oh, everything looks good.
This is our forte.
I love the way you sugarcoat it. Now let's get down and have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So just be like, and I know, I have to say, and my listeners know this, I am all about what you guys are doing. I understand, so much about, well, I think I understand a lot about inflammation and, the toxins and the foods that we eat and how, you go, oh, well, I didn't throw up or sneeze, so I'm not allergic to anything, things like that. But it's like, there's just so much more to understand. And once you do, and you make those changes, it's amazing, like how amazing your body and works for you and the mental clarity that you have. But yeah, that's the thing, is that people put so much trust into somebody else, and they'll walk away going, well, they said everything was just fine. But I feel so horrible.
We actually had a lady that came in with that exact same scenario about a week ago. She couldn't breathe. Her son sent her in here and said, I hear y'all do lab work, and he wanted his mother to get her lab tested to see what was wrong. And first thing I told her, I said, you look anemic. And I thought, well, that was really rude. This first time she met me, and I said, I'm really sorry I said that. That wasn't very nice. And then Dr. Lewis walks out and he says the same thing. He says, you look anemic. And she said, well, I've been told that before, but I'm really fine. I just can't breathe. And so we sent her for lab. We do a pretty lengthy lab so that we're not guessing.
Right.
And your iron, not only, we run a stored iron, and the very low end of that is about 20 is what you don't want it to drop below. Hers was a 5. She needed a transfusion.
Wow.
And when Dr. Lewis called her to tell her that she needed to go to the hospital immediately, she said, "Oh no," she said, "my iron has looked like that for a long time. I've taken it to my doctor and he told me it's just fine."
Several times.
Yes. And I thought, where's that doctor? Because I want to make sure I stay clear of him. But
yeah.
But we couldn't get her to go, and she said, "Well, I've got some iron here. I'll just keep taking it." And obviously, it wasn't working. But yeah, they get told they're fine, and there's something really wrong many times, and the patient thinks it's all in their head.
Yeah, and we love the medical profession. They saved my leg from rotting off after a bad spider bite. They saved me from a gunshot wound. It was accidental. Nobody was angry at me shooting me, but they do a really, really incredible job in a crisis, and I admire them, and their skill levels is incredible. I've never met an MD or a DO that I didn't like, and they always had the best interest of the patient at heart. But that being said, why in the heck are we sick? Why don't we feel good? Oh, well, let's see if I can say this tactfully, because Janet and then one of my patients said I need to clean it up. Okay, I'm going to try. This is going to be really tough.
Okay.
The reference ranges on the lab will go from a low number to a high number, and I used to say something. I'm looking for words, but it covers a very sick America. It covers people that are very, very sick, obese, the kind that we might make fun of, and we shouldn't, because they're all God's children, but these ranges don't cover normal, they cover common, and there's a difference.
Yeah.
Did I clean that up enough, Janet?
Well, I think the whole thing is that as America gets sicker and fatter as a nation, those reference ranges are getting bigger because the insurance companies don't have to pay for it if they're in those ranges. And we've literally seen like the 3-month blood sugar number move just in the time we've been in practice.
Yeah.
They're making it where, well, you were a diabetic, but hey, now you're not. We're going to move the numbers, and look, now a lot of this population is not a diabetic anymore. When in reality they really are.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the thyroid, same way. It's a huge range, and if you're not feeling good and you walk in and you're missing part of your hair and part of your eyebrows are falling out and you feel awful. And that range, and it's anywhere in there, they're going to tell you, it's fine. You don't have an issue at all.
Well, since so many people suffer with thyroid that doesn't work good, could I tell you a really good story that will illustrate what's going on?
Yes, please.
Once upon a time, there was this medical doctor that came in, and he wanted to talk to me or Janet, and Janet and I were gone. So the secretary called, and I said, well, just make an appointment with him. He's a really nice guy, very knowledgeable, does a lot of natural medicine. And Janet, my sweet, darling wife, said very adamantly, I do not want to talk to him. I said, I'll talk to him, no big deal. And so he came in at his regular his appointment time, and he was very angrily shaking lab work at me. And he says, you're getting our patients well, and we do not understand what you're doing. And I said, well, God's a lot smarter than you are, and he's probably a whole lot smarter than me. And so we're not going to get in a headbutting contest. It's about putting in nutrients that do not exist in our food. And then the body, in its infinite wisdom, takes it and runs with it. So he said, okay. And he was okay with that. He's a really nice guy. And I asked Janet to get a certain lab, and it was a mutual patient between me and this medical doctor. And Janet came in, and I said, okay, now that you're here, would you explain to the doctor the thyroid? Now, she had adamantly told me she didn't want to talk to him. So I put her on the spot, and she gave me the look. Do you know what the look is?
No, I want to see it so badly.
Well, it was a look like I'm going to cut you and hurt you when I get home. And so Janet said, what would you do with this lady's TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone? Well, the range goes from a 0.4 to a 4.5. And it was a 3 point something. And the guy says, well, she's my patient. I don't do anything with it. And Janet says, the TSH is not even the thyroid. That's a signal from the pituitary in the brain. And if it doesn't go low, that means the brain's putting out the signal, but the thyroid's not using it. So the thyroid's sluggish, and she'll be overweight, and she'll be a little bit thyroid crazy.
Wow.
And Then Janet says, what would you do with this T3 uptake? He says, nothing. It's 27. Well, the range goes from 24 to 35 or so. It varies with the lab. And she said, if it's not a 30 or higher, the lower it goes, the more estrogen dominant she is, whether it's birth control pills, with the extra estrogens or the estrogen mimicking compounds. And she said, would you not agree, sir, that at 27, she's a little bit estrogen dominant, and what's going to happen is she'll never lose weight. She won't have any energy. She will have a lot of thyroid crazy going on and aberrant thoughts, and she'll have no desire for sex. He uncrossed his arms and leaned in and gazed into my wife's beautiful eyes and said, can I bring my wife in to see you?
That's awesome.
And when she came in, although she was real thin, but both of them started smiling after they started seeing us.
Yeah. No, it's amazing what a difference it makes. What can you tell us, the difference between the labs that you will do for patients as opposed to the typical standard labs that patients will do?
The typical standard lab a patient gets is about 1 to 3 panels. And a lot of that's not your doctor's fault. It's the insurance company's fault because that's what they allow.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to have a diagnosis for or suspect there's a problem for every single lab panel they run.
They have to justify it.
Yes. So when we run a lab, we do not include insurance, and we run a minimum of 12 panels.
Nice. So you're getting a really full view of what's going on.
We don't like to guess because there's been so many people that have had underlying viruses. They have low vitamin D, which is a huge one, which the medical profession is actually onto a little bit now. The 3-month blood sugar, but we have a lot of young people that have a regular 3-month blood sugar, but they are not eating correctly because we run insulin to see what their poor little pancreas is doing before it goes into being a diabetic.
And if they're insulin resistant and we run cortisol. If it's too low, you have adrenal fatigue, and that takes forever in a day to fix the adrenal glands. Some of them, it's just revved up too high. And that's like, I do crazy analogies. I said, well, you got a 22 on your cortisol. That's like you're on interstate, you're running 135 miles an hour. Sooner or later, you're going to crash and burn.
Yeah.
And people say, I feel like that. I can't shut my brain down. Sleep at night. I toss and turn. And I wake up and I'm not rested. And they're talking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have high cortisol. And then you got people like me have a tendency to run it a little bit low. And it's like, well, you're not human until your second cup of coffee.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
But we also run risk of heart attack or stroke too. The inflammation markers.
Yes. Okay. So that's what I want to talk about is inflammation and why, I think there's a lot more awareness now about inflammation and what it can do internally. Now, most people used to just say inflammation. It was like, oh, I've got a swollen ankle because I twisted it and I'll take some Advil and I'll take down the inflammation and I'm good. But I want to really talk about inflammation in terms of how our entire body operates and how most of, especially, what happens to your body with inflammation, what kind of diseases result as that, and what can we do about it?
Any and all of them, but I think Janet needs to talk about this one.
I think the most common is it starts in the gut, and people don't realize that everything starts in the gut, and it leads to all of the different organs in the body. And I think one way you'd know if you had inflammation or if it wasn't correct is how many bowel movements a day are you having, and how many meals are you having? And you ask, well, that's weird, but you wouldn't believe the people that tell me they go to the bathroom 2 to 3 times a week max.
Yeah.
And so I give them my train story. Tell them, well, if you had 3 trains that go through a tunnel, how many should come out on the other side? So when they say I'm eating 3 meals a day and they're passing 2 to 3 a week,
right? Exactly.
Where are they? That's inflammation.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's gas, bloating, belching. So that's one of the primary things we do is get the gut right, which is digestive enzymes to help you break down the foods, because if you don't absorb what you're having, then the organs start having problems.
So digestive enzymes and probiotics, and Janet hands me a digestive enzyme every time that we eat. So is she doing that because she loves me and wants me healthy? Or is she kind of self gas later? I don't know.
So, okay, that's all I have about inflammation. Dr. Liz probably has more, but
what are the things that we are doing, typically that are causing inflammation?
Well, genetically modified food, spraying pesticides on our food,
eating pasta, rice, potatoes, bread,
anything,
the grains.
Wheat and dairy, the way we do our dairy is not really correct. But what are we doing? Our diet is terrible, and there's a lot of books I can recommend, just gobs of books, because I probably read 100 a year. I don't know. Janet buys me books by the dozen sometimes, but
there's the whole thing. People are. You see it on labels now that dairy can cause inflammation, gluten will cause inflammation, but then at the same time, now people are replacing what wheat they used to be eating are now, like you said, rice and potatoes, and they're eating a lot of those type things and still not seeing really good results, because it's almost like rice and potatoes are gluten free. So I want to talk about that kind of stuff. Like what are your beliefs in terms of foods that you should be eating, and what is the right way to do dairy?
Well, it's better if it's raw. I know the FDA would have a problem with that, but, I grew up with that.
Organic. A lot of the problem is they're eating these pasta, rice, potatoes, bread. It feeds yeast. And actually on the lab, many times we can see it.
We could have a whole podcast just on probiotics and getting rid of yeast and bad bacteria, and how that affects the genetic expression, and how that, if you have the right bacteria in your intestines, it alters the way that your genes express themselves. And even if you have the breast cancer genes, that you can lower your chance of breast cancer, and all the other ones too, by 30% to 95%, depending on what you read. And I'm going to get into that in our next podcast that Janet and I make. But, you need to eat healthier, and y'all eat healthier out in California. Janet and I just feel like we've struck a gold mine when we go there. But let me caution people. People tell me every day, but I eat good. No, you don't. You can't. And the reason, and now it's totally important. It's imperative that you eat better and change your diet, but it's not complete. So here's another, Stevenism. I got this call from an organic farmer, and he said, I've done your stuff for 2 years, and I felt so good. I moved from one state to the other state. I got first runner-up best organic farm within a year of moving there because I had so much energy taking your supplements. I said, great. He said, but I got off your supplements 3 months ago, and I feel like not very good. You can fill in the blank. He said, but I eat organic. And I said, that's great, but you don't know if there's 1 part per million or 16,000 parts per million of molybdenum or manganese or magnesium or calcium. You don't know. I mean, organic food's great for not having the Roundup sprayed on it, but it's still not necessarily nutrient dense. And this is like a little brother to me, even though he lives in another state. I said, did you read the book I told you to read 2 years ago? And he says, no. And I called him a dummy. Now, again, we're like brothers talking.
Right.
And I said, I just got a brand new one of these books in, and I want you to read it. I'm going to send it to you. Don't waste my time until you've read it like I told you to 2 years before. And again, I wasn't being offensive to him. We were having a good time. And he called me in about 2 or 3 weeks. He said, oh, my God, polar bears have thyroid problems, and we don't spray anything up there. Oh, my God, they have osteoporosis. Oh, my God, we're getting DDT from where they're spraying it in Africa to try to eliminate malaria, and it's coming through the jet stream. I said, okay, I got it. You read the book. He said, but I eat organic. I said, we've already talked about that. Organic is awesome, but it's not complete.
Right.
So, yeah, eating good is great. It's just not complete. So, man, you can crank up how good you feel. It takes a little bit of effort, time, energy, effort, and money, and loving yourself enough to invest in more nutrients where your body can work at a higher level. But good gracious, it's worth it. I feel half my age, and it takes a certain amount of effort to pull that off by, consuming nutrients. But people say, "Oh my God, you really? I can't believe it. You act like you're 30. I said, "Yeah, right."
Well, a lot of the yeast type products create you to be tired. And so then people go and get coffee and Cokes and things like that make them real acidic. So there's a lot of your inflammation.
Yeah, now Coke in Texas is any soft drink. It's a whole different vernacular here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you can, with the lab work that you do, can you see if there's inflammation going on within the body?
Roughly, yes. We look at C-reactive protein, which is more cardiovascular specific. And if you want to know more about CRP and how that is a much better indicator of future heart attack and stroke than any cholesterol number, then Google the Cleveland Clinic C-reactive protein. That's probably the best heart clinic in America. So you can see that. And then we can tell about gut function by what your protein is, what your globulin is, what your chloride is, alkaline phosphatase.
When your alkaline phosphatase is going higher, that means your body's in an acidic condition and it's leaching out the calcium and minerals that it needs, trying to stay in an alkaline state so that you stay alive.
Right.
So that means literally you can see it being depleted from the bone way before somebody diagnoses that person with osteoporosis.
Yeah, your calcium will go high, and the patient says, "Oh, my calcium's high. That's good." I said, "No, what's it doing in your blood? It's not supposed to be that high." So you don't look for in range; you look for optimal range, and it's kind of a fun job. And I had a young lady cry last week. I said, "I'm sorry, did I hurt your feelings?" She said, "No, you're the first one that listened to me and understood." I said, "Honey, she's young enough I could call her honey, but she's more like a daughter's age." I said, "You can get better. You just stick with it a while." And she was crying. She left and talked to Janet and cried. And Janet said, "Are you okay?" She said, "Yeah, I have hope for the first time in my life." She was 32, but.
Well, I think you nailed it when you said optimal. It's not just I'm trying to be what is being called as normal, which really, you don't even really know what that means. I mean, the goal is to feel optimal. The goal is to wake out of bed feeling rested. The goal is to make it through the day without feeling totally drained and exhausted and needing, caffeine or sugar to get you through the next hour. And the goal really is to have that mental clarity, that feeling of I can comprehend, I can pay attention, I feel energetic, I'm excited to get out there and move my body. I mean, that's just like an amazing feeling to have, and to be able to have that every single day. And we're built with that. Like, that's what we were made to feel like. And it's, you're just kind of wearing yourself down every single day with all of the toxins that we have. But what I wanted to ask is, it is difficult. I mean, I live in a place where there's places opening up left and right that have the raw dairy that you're talking about, that have grass-fed meats, that have, amazing vegetables that don't look like other vegetables because they're organic and they're, it's beautiful fruits and vegetables. I mean, and there's so much awareness. There's so many amazing, just foods and oils and supplements and just all kinds of good stuff that you can't really find all over the country. So what is a person to do that isn't in a place like I'm in San Diego and has
We're in that place that that's not available.
Right. So those are kind of the questions I have, because the objections are, sure, that sounds all nice, but it's expensive if I have to go all the way to get it, or if I have to order it, or how much are the supplements going to cost, So how do you guys get through and get past those objections with your clients?
You don't always get through them. I have my crazy analogy. So you want one more story about what it cost?
I love stories. I'm all about stories. So bring it.
You're so sweet. Once upon a time, I had this young lady. old girlfriend of mine. In 2007, she comes in, her C-reactive protein was a 4. It needs to be under a 1. So we knew she was inflamed. And a wonderful woman full of joy. Well, she ignored it. 4 years later, had her heart attack. She's had 2 heart surgeries, 3 or 4 pacemakers, a heart pump, and now she's not doing good because of breast cancer. But when I called her, she had called Janet and says, well, I've had my heart attack. And she said, I'll understand if Stephen won't call me back. And I said to Janet, I said, why would she say that? And Janet says, because she knows you're not going to be very nice to her. I said, no, I'm going to be a great person. I'm going to be real sweet. And I called her 2 days later because I was angry. And anger was just fear of loss because she's a really nice person. She brings the world a lot more joy. And we said all the mushy things. And I said, well, number 1, quit saying you're going to die. You're going to speak it into existence. And number 2, you've got a great husband, 2 wonderful kids. And she said, it was just so expensive. And I blew up. And I said, you still smoke? She said, yeah. I said, how much? She said, 2 or 3 packs a day. And I said, I've never asked you to put that kind of money into the temple of the Holy Spirit. I said, you drink every day, don't you? She said, well, yeah. I said, you still roll a joint and smoke it every day, don't you? She said, how did you know? I said, I knew by the way you answered the question. I said, I gave that up in 1975. I put money and supplements and nutrients into my body, and I hope my body's smart enough to make it good. And this is a sweet, sweet, sweet lady that didn't understand the concept of investing.
Right.
And it's a sad story. It's like, I see people younger than me every day in the obituaries. And it's like, these are people that have the knowledge because I may have told them, but they didn't love themselves enough to get started and to do it. So it's not doing what you know. It's not knowing what to do. It's doing what you know. It's like, you have to get started and you have to finish the race. And it's a long race, but
we had another one also that, we have a product called DIM. It's diindol methane. And what it does is go in and gobble up the bad estrogens that you're talking about. On a woman, when they start to gain weight, they'll get thicker through their shirts don't fit like they used to. Their back is thicker than what it used to be.
She's giving me the look so I don't
it's
talk
the
about
back.
that.
Yes, it's the back. But DIM will go back in and gobble up those bad estrogens. And one of the side effects of it is that you get your shape back to the way it was when you were younger. But it levels out the hormones. But it has to be a good DIM. And the things we use in our practice are the pharmaceutical grade, the pure ones that we know have been tested. They're generally 3 to 5 times stronger than anything you're buying over the counter. But I had told this lady that was a friend of ours that was lived here at the time in Longview, Texas, and told her about this DIM. Well, she bought it for a while, and then I didn't hear anything from her. She moved to Virginia, and I didn't hear from her for probably like 5 years. And she called me up one day, and she said, I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. She said, I've just had a double mastectomy. And I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you had cancer. And she said, yeah. She goes, and I was even on that DIM that you told me about. I said, you weren't on the DIM that was our DIM. She said, oh, I just ordered it off the internet because y'all's was too expensive.
And that wasn't even true. She was getting a DIM, if it was DIM, because there's a lot of counterfeiting in supplements.
Yeah, that's true.
It was from soy. And it's like, you can get some good things out of soy, but for the most part, you need to avoid it like crazy, and especially soy protein. So,
Right.
But now that she's had the double mastectomy, she's back on our DIM. And she said, I'm never getting off of that again.
But they clipped a nerve in her arm, going to her arm, and that caused some problems.
So what does it cost? It's like, everybody has to put that value on their own.
Yeah,
health,
exactly. It's so true. Yep. It's so true.
Being healthy is not a reward for starting. It's a reward for finishing. So, just get on the train and stick with it and find somebody you love and trust. And, we're not the only ones that have the best supplements, but there are a lot of supplements out there. I tell people, I said, have you ever had a crazy ex? And most of them say, yeah. I said, well, that's the supplement you're taking because you're getting them from da-da-da-da-da. For example, some men are wonderful and some are mediocre, and some are crazy and harmful and won't work. So whether that's a man or a supplement, it still holds true. So you have to be careful. And I tell people, use your spirit of discernment. For you women, that's called using your intuition.
Yeah.
As a man, Ellis, because either we don't have it or we're trained not to use it. So intuition's a good thing.
Oh, definitely. Well, I was going to ask, how does one determine which are the best supplements to take? Because there are so many out there, and you can, there's quite a range in price. Is it always the more expensive one is the higher quality? Is it always,
No.
So what are some things that people can look out for beyond intuition?
Well, first of all, you can't always believe what's on the label because they very much are counterfeited, according to a special investigator for the FDA.
We always tell people to get physician-only grade supplements because they really do sell a physician-grade supplement that's a higher quality and tested
independently.
Yeah, independently, each ingredient.
Some of them rank, and some of the regular people aren't really privy to some of this information, but there's ones that are ranked silver, there's ones that are ranked gold, and there's ones that don't even rank. Find somebody you really trust, and people say, well, how do you know yours are good? I said, because it'll move a lab. And it's,
we put the proof in the pudding. We can show you on lab where they work. The ones we carry different product lines. Our big one is probably Orthomolecular and a company called Zymogen. You're not going to find Zymogen anywhere on the internet because they are exclusive to doctors because their stuff is so strong. It will hurt you if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Some famous self-help guru said success leaves clues. So does failure. So pay attention to what you're getting and get started. And it's crazy. I have a jillion people from California that use my services. I've talked to 2 or 3 of them already today. We do this all over the country, and it's, I don't know. I can give you clues, and
I was going to ask you that in working with you, do you only work with people that are local to you, or can you work with anybody anywhere?
We have them all over the United States. We actually probably have more across the United States than we do locally.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you can do phone consultations. You can have people can get their lab work done. You can analyze it and kind of give them a protocol to follow in terms of diet and supplements.
Yes. Functional health report, and then I go over the lab, the important parts. And Janet has, I told her, I said, thank you for dragging me into the 20th century as far as technology is concerned. She says, Stephen, it's the 21st. Well, she's dragging me into the 21st century. We've gone to Skype and Zoom where we're now doing, the video consultations. I did that with a chiropractic student in South Carolina the other day. And he says, oh, my God, I'm in chiropractic college and I can't get this information. How do you know this? I said, I read a lot of books and go to tons of seminars. And he had tears in his eyes too. He said, wow, I know I'm going to get well now.
And that particular person and anybody, we have the labs on our website, and you can go there and pick where you live, and it will give you the lab location that's closest to you to draw it. Which is a Quest Diagnostic Lab generally.
And you're kind of focused to have some of the people that have invested more into their success, right? You deal with more successful people.
Oh, correct. And that's what I was going to say is we have so many listeners that I do think a lot of in my network of people are very tuned into their health and their well-being only because though something had to happen, whether it was a nervous breakdown, whether it was because obviously, people think, no, but that was just stress. But what they don't understand is how much better you can handle stress and situations and problem solving when you are in your optimal state. So, a lot of the entrepreneurs that have gone through stressful times and are now very successful and seeing so much growth within their business is because they have made themselves important and their self-care important. And it's really cool to see how many people are paying attention to, their spirituality and what it is that they're putting inside their body and how active they are. I grew up with, and my listeners know this because I say it all the time, but I grew up with a mother who was always very into health, but she was also a teacher of transcendental meditation. And so meditation was a huge part of our life every morning, every afternoon. And it's amazing now, my friends used to think that I was weird and that we were cuckoo and like, what is this, a cult? It was all weird to them. And now more than ever, it's like every other person I meet knows about it. And especially the entrepreneurs that I come in contact with practice it on a day-to-day basis. So it's awesome. And the things that I was taking, like algae, spirulina, all of these things that my mom had introduced to me so long ago, and everybody thought she was, such a hippie and all kinds of labels. Now people are seeing that and taking it in because they're going, wow, it's actually, look what results it's producing for other people. And when people have success, especially entrepreneurs, and they start to share that, and they're almost talking less about business practice, which they do talk about, but a lot of them are really honing in on how they're taking care of themselves so that they can even do these big things that they're doing.
Well, that's interesting you say that because, Dr. Lewis told you his story about how he got started doing it. He's been a very smart, wonderful chiropractor for many years.
Yeah.
But the reason we kind of switched over to nutrition was because of me having a hysterectomy.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
So that's why we know what works. That's why we've been where people are. That's why we know how they feel, because I lived it.
Yeah.
I did the medical route after the hysterectomy. I was 35 when that happened.
I thought she's 32 today. I don't know how she got that. But.
Yeah, I'm a bit older than that now. But after they put me on all of the protocol after a hysterectomy, and you got the estrogen again, that I at that time had no clue because, like I said, we weren't into nutrition as much as what we are now, and they stuck you on more estrogen. I got fat. I got tireder. I couldn't move, and I laughed because at the time that happened, it was about 6 months later, Dr. Lewis married me. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. You're going to marry me knowing I'm this way? I wouldn't marry me. And God love him. He stuck with it through the whole thing. But I know that was something that I had to experience so that I knew how to help other people.
Yes, exactly.
Because he is so intelligent, the combination of both things has just really made a whole lot of other people's lives better and taken a lot of shortcuts for them that I didn't get.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that about entrepreneurs taking care of themselves. And, if people are curious, they can go on our website, Green Wisdom Health, and listen to some of our podcasts. But I get on my soapbox and I'll talk about, loving yourself. And you have to do that. That being said, and there's a lot of physiological or nutritional ways to handle stress better, and that's the probiotics in your GI tract. But God, it starts, it's spirituality, and you were called weird, but now, my thing, Summer, is why would you want to be normal? So if somebody called me normal, I would be insulted.
Totally. I don't want to be normal. Exactly. Yeah, I love that. Well, I want to let our listeners know where that website is. It's greenwisdomhealth.com, and we will have a link to that as well on our blog post for sure. There's so much good information. Like it's so important, and I think what's unfortunate is that so many people don't take notice. Sometimes it's too late by the time, they never take notice and it's too late. But it usually, unfortunately, has to get pretty bad. There has to be some type of big wake-up call before people will seek out help on a different level, because what they've been doing is not working at all. And I would just encourage people to start now. Even if you're at a place where you're like, I feel pretty good. Even if you are doing what you believe are a lot of the right things, just to really have that understanding of what's going on inside your body and knowing what you can do to make it be at its optimal state.
Right.
And it's generally not anything you think it is what's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, people walk in here all the time and tell me, well, I think I know what's wrong. And then we run their lab and it's not even anywhere close.
Yeah, Google will sometimes mislead you,
Yes,
so be careful
exactly.
diagnosing yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing how people will start to believe what they have just based on one, thread on Google.
Right.
Yeah, that's so true. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy you're doing what you're doing. I really encourage all of our listeners to visit your site. I think it's so fantastic that you work with people all over the country. That's the crazy good world that we live in today, is that you don't have to be in your office. You can actually just do this via phone, get some lab work done, understand what's going on, and then have pretty much like a blueprint for your health, which is awesome.
It's pretty fun because we have met so many nice people all over the country that I would have never known had it not been for the internet now. So we're really blessed to be a part of this time in our lives.
And some of them are nationally known. I won't go into the names, of course, but, it doesn't matter if you're nationally known or not. If you want to feel better, there's a big chance that we can tell you what to do to feel better, to have hope again, and to feel like you're thriving, not just surviving.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. That is so true. You guys are amazing. I know that there's so much more that we could talk about, but I also know that information is available on your podcast. Can our listeners find your podcast through your website?
Yes, there's a tab there.
Okay.
They're on iTunes and Podbean too.
Perfect. Well, thank you both so much. This has been very incredible and enlightening.
Well, thank you. You've been a wonderful host.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's Get Genius. You can learn more about The Draw Shop at www.thedrawshop.com, on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Your home for kick-butt custom whiteboard marketing videos. Your ideas come to life. Thanks for listening. Please share, comment, and make any suggestions for future Genius guests.